Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Buckle up, strap in, get ready for the show. I can't wait to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote I picked just for this podcast. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. George Carlin. Our guest today, great friends of the Culture Matters podcast. Two winners, selling the dream, keeping it dry, because the opposite would be weird. I love when they come on the show. We talk shop, business, life, culture, leadership. They have an amazing podcast. If I send any more guests, I'm about to be trying to get investment in this timeshare because of how damn good they are in their conversations, in their interviews, the cadence. Two friends from college make me realize, ah, shit, I should have got my shit together and went to college. The one and only Ken Jordan, Joseph, I hope I pronounced his last name right. Iredell.
You got it, man.
Iredell. Oh, I did. I did the first time.
Iredell, yeah. What's that?
Everyone struggles
Iredell.
with that.
Iredell.
Taco
Yeah, I've been
tomorrow.
practicing it. Yep. The Effortless Mortgage, the Effortless Podcast, the Effortless Friendship. Thanks for coming on the show again, guys. And I challenge the listeners to type in your names on the Culture Matters podcast to see our other episodes. They're hilarious and fun and enriching, and to go listen to the Selling the Dream. What episode are you guys on now?
87. No, I don't know. But whatever it is, you're entitled to a third of whatever we bring in, Jay. I promise.
Dude, I would, if you guys were stock, I would definitely invest. It's
You're
a
a buyer.
great dynamic. Yeah.
We're blue chips, baby.
Yeah. What do you think makes hey Joe, what do you think makes Ken so great when it comes to, sorry. If anybody's listening to this podcast, go to YouTube and watch it because it's going to be so much better. He almost spit his drink out there. Joe, what do you think makes Ken so great as the host?
Uh, he's I think that I don't know, man. He's just got that natural just ability to kind of stay on task and ask the right questions. And he's like I knew for years, I'm like, this guy's either gonna run a podcast or be a game show host. And so it's
Wow.
That's pretty impressive considering when we met, there was no such thing as podcasts, but
no, but there were game shows,
there
bro.
were game shows.
So yeah.
What would you call this game show?
If he was on a game show,
This is fun.
oh, what would
Yeah.
it be called? What would it be called?
This is like this is
Uh,
like fuck, marry, kill.
okay,
Yeah.
all right, all right,
What
all
what
right, all right. I think it would be called I Can't Believe I Ate the Whole Thing.
No.
That's what it would be called.
Ken, what do you think that yeah, okay. So what and okay. Guys, the first question I have for you today in this deposition is if you had a word to describe 2024, what would be your word?
My word would be momentum.
Momentum.
Momentum. And it's obviously it's relative to me. I think that from my business perspective, my second half of the year was our revenue was twice what the first half of the year is. So whatever we did in the first 6 months, we doubled that in the second six months. And I think that a lot of stuff had to get cleared out in order to make room for that to happen. But I do feel like going into 2025, the momentum that we have right now in our industry, but also in our business and our branch, my personal business production is exciting. That's my word, momentum. Don't ask me to spell it.
It's pretty good. Mine would be learning. Simply put, I had a lot of stuff happen this year. all like mostly positive. I'd say 99% positive, but it just opened my eyes to how little I know about stuff and how much I had to learn and how quickly I had to learn it to get up to speed. And then that just becomes perpetual because the more that I learn, the more I realize I didn't know. And then so it's
Hmm.
been, I feel like my head is exponentially grown, not ego wise, but just mental capacity because of all of the drinking out of a fire hose I had to do. And so that I would say that was learning would be number one.
That hat strap is holding on by a thread, considering how much your head has grown in the last year.
It has, man. It has.
Anything in particular worth sharing?
That I've learned.
Yeah, remember this is rated R, not NC-17. So
No, I hear you, bro. It's I would say that number one, the number one thing that I learned is that to not compromise on your execution, your vision, and not so much the vision, but the execution. When you do things that are like seemingly out of a reach for you or bigger than what you're used to, then remember what got you to that point and don't waver from your rigid execution. If even if there's outside forces or influence that may seemingly be bigger than you are, um, if you stick to your fundamentals and what got you where you are, then you're going to have a much smoother ride than if you kind of kowtow to things or lose focus. So that would be the biggest lesson that I learned is, have confidence in how you got to where you are and stick to what got you there and don't let other people, you know, don't be afraid to offend other people with how rigid you are and how steadfast you are to the plan that you have in place. Because
Joe, it's funny you
ultimately,
say that because you're right that you saying no is probably the most important thing you can do when you're in the phase that you're in. And I'm from an outsider looking in, watching Joe. I don't, and this is Joe's working his ass off right now. Probably Joe, I don't know. I mean, working harder than you ever have, and
100%, I,
and
I will
and
say that.
and for like within us knowing each other, it was always uh I don't want to say things came easy to you or whatever, but I know for a fact you're working harder than you ever have, and I think that what's interesting about watching Joe and what you guys are going through is that I'm seeing a transformation. I'm not seeing you sticking to what worked, what you've done in the past. I actually am seeing you realizing that in order to achieve what you guys are trying to achieve with Diametics and with the nonprofit, you're actually having to change everything about who you were and how you operated. You're operating on a different level right now. You're not operating the Joe Iredell from 2015.
Yeah, I would say that it's, I mean, the execution is different for sure. And it's one of those, there's a lot more of a microscope when you're kind of the lightning rod of progress or lack thereof. So like definitely I have to tread lighter or moving, where things before you mentioned like, oh, it seems like it comes easy. Like it wasn't that I wasn't working, but I wasn't going outside to do things that I could fail. Like I had so many fail safes in order that there was zero risk. And that's why I was like, whatever. Like I'm playing with the house's money. I don't care. Like, so when you take on the responsibility of investors, you have we have a whole bunch of people that, we sign their paychecks every week. And, that's that's where the buck stops at you. It's a completely different mindset. And, you really have to, I take that responsibility, you know, don't want to say it keeps me up at night, but it does. Like I take it very, very seriously
As you
because
should.
it's not my, I could care less. I don't, where we came from. We're happy drinking, cheap beer and hanging out, right? Like if I lost all my money tomorrow, I'd be okay. My family, we're cool. But when it's other people's money and it's other people's family responsibilities, it's like, holy crap, dude. Like I don't know if how they would handle. I'm not in that spot. So that's where it's definitely changing. Getting back to my word learning. I mean, that has been huge,
Hmm.
huge way to, this year figuring how to navigate that.
What advice do you have for people that are could easily cower over whatever responsibility they have?
That ultimately you're going to have it's going to go the way that it's going to go, regardless of whether you're you're not honest about it up front or on the back end. So it's much better to have tough conversations up front. It's much better, as Kenny said, to say no up front. It's and at the risk of offending someone or wrecking a deal altogether. Why that's another thing that really stood out is when we're putting things together and we have deals or partnerships, if that in the back of your mind you're just like, it's not perfect, but okay, like I'll look the other way on this thing that they have over here or whatever. It always comes back to it comes out. If it doesn't come out in the wash, it comes out in the rinse. So
Hmm.
that is a hard lesson to learn, that you got to be able to just cut bait before even if you think it's the best thing ever, but it eventually all comes full circle. So
That's
that's
a
a
great line. It comes out in the washer, it comes out in the rinse. I'm going to
that's
write
it.
that down. I'm using that.
I say that often because it definitely rings true. Pardon the pun. Get it?
Okay. What is Diametics?
So Diametics were a first of its kind all-inclusive diabetic wellness facility. So we have a proprietary, among one of the modalities that we offer, we have a proprietary treatment, which is called insulin resensitization, powered by WellCell Global is one of our partners. And so what this does is it uses insulin as a hormone as opposed to a drug. So the current treatments for diabetics is you take a bunch of drugs, they give you insulin, your body becomes insulin resistant to it over time, and then you eventually lose your limbs and die. So what this does is it syncs with the pancreas to essentially recondition it. And I have to be careful with the words I use. I'm not a doctor, and but in layman's terms, reconditions your pancreas
Hmm.
to secrete insulin in the proper sequence or frequency that it should. So ultimately, it's been shown to reverse the symptoms or reverse the byproducts or symptoms of diabetes. So like neuropathy, and it also helps with liver failure. So we have 11 university studies published, all sorts of, you know, uh, research that have been proven, FDA approved, everything like that. So, not to overspeak what it is, definitely do your research on it, but it is a first of its kind and it's amazing. Our patients are seeing incredible results with it. So,
What's it like to be under the burden of selling something like innovative?
it's a different twist. So this is another thing I'm learning. So it's a whole completely different animal when you first have to educate and then sell. So it's like, this is what we're doing. No one's ever heard of it. And they're like, well, is it like this? And they're like, no, it's nothing like that. It's not Ozempic. It's not a drug. It's not, you know, so educating the public that this is actually something different and good is number one. And then number two is, all right, you should come use us. But then here's the biggest education that I've learned as well is the healthcare industry. And, I don't have to, anybody who's picked up a newspaper or seen anything will tell you is, I would say, flawed at the least. So dealing with insurances, getting things approved, and fight, like, basically, it's a David and Goliath situation where if you're trying to further, technology that helps people, there's a lot of, existing revenue and money out there that'll not help. We'll just say that. So that in itself has been incredibly difficult. I wouldn't say difficult to navigate, but it's a whole different, set of obstacles that we have to face.
In the sales process, up to this point, have you tried introducing yourself with your counterpart's name? And
Uh,
if so, how helpful has that been in the sales process so far?
so we sit in a really unique spot. So actually, it's more of a situation where um, we rely a lot on referral partners. So the majority
So
of
not outbound.
no, it like we get referrals from home health care nurses. We do a lot of wound care as well. So there's nursing facilities, there's home health care, even endocrinologists um, that and that have patients with wounds that need heal. So there's people undergoing dialysis. So we have dialysis centers that we have studies that help with that. So it's a big, it's a big referral play. There's a lot direct to consumer, direct to patient as well, but the majority of our patients are coming in through primary care physicians or, people who uh, trusted advisors that are sending them via referral.
Ken, what you said that was a pretty heavy and exciting testimony that you gave earlier.
Yeah.
What's that like to no, Ken, like that he gave to you? Yeah, what's it like to see your friend going into this? I don't know. It's got to be kind of cool.
It's great. I mean, one of the cool things about surrounding yourself with the right people, and Jay, you're one of the right people, is when you truly put people in your circle that are cheering for you, and want you to do well. A lot of people think that that's common, and it's not. I don't care. I mean, there's kind people out there, there's polite people out there, but the likelihood that you're going to find people that truly want you to win, when you do find that person, you got to keep them close. And I absolutely want to see Joe win. And Joe, in our time together, there were plenty of times where I was working my ass off, or working like a jackass, whatever you want to call it, because work doesn't always equate to, hard work doesn't always equate to the directional success. Where his perspective was important, but so I know he always cheered me on, and always was the person, whether it was a success or a failure, whatever it was that I was dealing with in the moment, was the person I wanted to go to and get, hey, here's what I did that was great, and it's like, that's awesome, and we got excited together. Or here's where I screwed up and I made a mistake, and he was the person I was there. So same thing with Joe, is that when I see him doing well, it's a very genuine joy to watch, and
Mm.
when I got stuck in Cabo last year, I did question why I was friends with him, but we got past that. We did get past that.
Wait, how'd you get stuck?
You didn't hear that story?
Oh,
Do we have
I
time? Do we
think
have time for this?
Yeah, isn't this a 2 hour podcast? Yeah, by the way, we're recording this on a Sunday, so you guys are real rock stars for that. That's a whole nother conversation. Like,
The
it's
Cabo
like,
trip was something out of another. We got to the airport, our flight got canceled, and we're in Philadelphia. We're flying to Texas, from Texas to Cabo San Lucas.
let me also interject here. I don't own or work for any airline. I don't so other than suggesting that we vacation in Cabo, that's where my contribute
Yeah,
to these troubles begin and end. So
it was still all your fault, no matter how you
all
say
right,
it.
all right, I'll take
So
that.
the flight gets canceled. We basically are this close to giving up the whole idea. I got my son, both of my daughters, my wife, my son's girlfriend in the Philadelphia International Airport, and we were getting nowhere with the people at the airport, and they were just like, "Yeah, your flight got canceled." So, okay, what are we going to do? So we end up, to Joe's suggestion, oh, it's easy. It's easy. Go fly into San Diego, take an Uber to the Tijuana border, cross over into Tijuana, and then fly from Tijuana to Cabo. Now, most people would have been like, yeah, that's not happening, and hung up the phone. I was like, that just might work. so on faith, we booked a flight to San Diego. We literally took a plane or took an Uber to the Tijuana border. We walked over the border at the Tijuana, was it the TX?
The CBX,
CBX,
Express.
Cross Border Express, hopped a flight from Tijuana to Cabo, and we were there 2 days later. It was pretty crazy. Coming home was even crazy.
Sorry. Wait. 2 days later?
2 days later, because we couldn't catch a flight to San Diego until the next morning.
It didn't take them 2 days to cross the border and get there.
No, I
Well,
was like, was there a mule
pack the
involved?
donkey.
Like,
We had to pack the
Then you had to put on the show with the donkey.
yeah, this is like, God, this show has digressed so deeply. It's good thing we have so many episodes going out. This will get lost in the shuffle there. Yeah.
This is the
So you went. Where does the trust, is that the speed of trust that they talk about in these books?
I don't
The
know
leadership
what we're talking
books?
about, but yes.
Yeah, Stephen M. R. Covey's son wrote a book, or Stephen Covey's son. It's called The Speed of Trust. It's a really well written book. The 7 Highly Effective Habits guy.
Yeah,
His
I know who you're
son.
talking about, and yes, there is a lot of trust there, without a doubt. I mean, and it was transmitted from Joe to me, and from me to my family.
Wow.
Immediately, that here's what we're going to do.
Let me also, I have a validator on my side as well, because I tell KJ, hey man, that's how you do it. And then right thereafter, my wife is like, you know what? Why don't I go ahead and tell Kenny's wife too? So this isn't just two knuckleheads.
Sure, yes. Laura had to co-sign this idea.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely need a voucher.
But you got where you were trying to go.
We got there, and coming home was even more interesting, because when we got to the airport coming home, after a great week, 4 days,
Wow.
family, son, hanging out at the resort, just my family, Joe's family, it was pretty awesome. Hanging out with my kids as adults now, which is awesome. Coming home, our flight got canceled again, Jay.
Wow.
This time we were in a third world nation. Like, it wasn't the same flight getting canceled in Philadelphia versus a flight getting canceled in Cabo San Lucas. And it was a domestic flight. It was like the Spirit Airlines of Mexico. Like, and my dog's a little whiner right now. But anyway, coming home. So now they don't speak English. Like, we're using a Google Translate, and she's like, and she shows me her phone. It says, your flight got canceled. Like, what am I supposed to do? So we end up, how did it end? So we ended up getting a flight the next morning. We had to stay at the airport hotel that night. Went back, got a flight direct from Cabo to San Diego, and then from San Diego, which is where Joe lives, to Philly. But the way it all worked out, we landed in San Diego. We had like a 12-hour layover. So we had to drive from San Diego airport to Joe's house. My whole family at Joe's house, sleeping on the couches until 3 in the morning. We wake up, we get in the Uber, go to San Diego, finally get home. It was 5 days of travel total, all in, and it was insanity.
Sounds like National Lampoons.
It was insane, but it did all work out.
It was worth it, right?
I like that velocity. Would you say speed of trust? Velocity of trust?
Yeah, the speed of trust. Like, if there's trust, less communication is necessary, because we're kind of already on the same page.
And think about that. I mean, in business and in whether
Like,
it's
we don't have to have
sales or
7
leadership,
meetings to make a decision.
Yeah, you don't need as much. Like there's just like there's just that trust. So you can say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and we don't have to pick
It's
apart
an
the ideas.
effortless mortgage.
Yeah, there you go. Nice callback.
Well, effortlessness as a consequence of trust. How do we build it though, guys? How do we build trust? And how does Joe get that bank account of trust up back from this rocky, like how many trust Bitcoin were taken out of the
There were no withdrawals. It was all deposits.
I don't.
does he lose any? This is a good friend conversation, right? Like
Yeah,
No,
everybody can
not
relate
in
to
that
this.
situation.
Does he
Trust me
lose
when I
any,
tell you,
or
Joe
was it
has
your?
taken massive withdrawals from the trust account over the years, but
That's
not
fair.
in that situation.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, like, was it his thing or was it your poor execution?
No, it was, dude. It was Pete Buttigieg, the secretary of that's where this all started. We're gonna start somewhere. Let's start there, okay? Because flights should not be canceled like in the middle of the summer on like for no reason. So the whole plan from the get-go was completely taken out of everyone's hands and control. So at that point, we were just trying to figure out like does he just write it off as a total loss, like, up, I guess we're going to eat this and not go on vacation, or do we figure out, all right, how do we get there? So the how that we get there was, well, I know that there's flights from TJ to Cabo like on the hour, and I know you can get to San Diego pretty easy, and boom, the part flying back, I mean, shoots. Like that's just how you can't plan that stuff. Like we were just as surprised as anybody else because previous to that, so I was in Mexico for like 10 days before he got there. I was down in like
Whoa.
Altuco and whatever. So me and my son were there surfing, and then we flew and we met like my wife and the rest of the kids in Cabo. So they had come through. They flew out of Tijuana like a couple days before, like my wife and four kids, not all five, like by herself, like boop, like no problem. And I was like, oh, how'd it go? They're like, oh, it was a breeze. It's great. So there wasn't, we couldn't, I think they were just jinxed, honestly. I don't know.
It would, yeah,
How you feel.
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of trust necessary for that to happen, really, because we flying blind is literally what we were doing.
Is there a reason you guys all chose Cabo San Lucas? Was it? It's a nice place.
Oh,
I never
yeah,
been there.
it's pretty nice. Yeah, it's really, I mean, yeah, it's nice. It's like
It's like
cheap.
Cancun, but on the West Coast.
Yeah, like it's different though, because it's like it's very popular here in California. So like it's super I hate to say this, but like it's super easy to get to. It's like really good.
Now we're talking.
Like,
This is a
I'm
good.
like, no kidding. And we had
Yeah.
been there, like me and my family have been there, not to where we were at, but we were at a different place. Oh, we were on a cruise the year before. And we were in Cabo before that too. And we're like, oh, this will be really cool. Like, yeah, we should just go because the cruise the year before, it's like it's a lot. I hate cruises. I don't drink, so I was not feeling the cruise. I'm like, oh, we'll go here. This will be cool. And so yeah, not expecting it to be such a difficult place to get to from the East Coast, but that's why we picked Cabo. So,
What was the tour? Was there a lot of tourism? Like, was there a lot of activity? How's the economy out there?
oh yeah, you think you're in Vegas. You're in like Mexican Vegas. It's hotels, restaurants, they're doing all, it's like it's a party spot.
Yeah, now you're in San Diego,
Carlsbad, yeah,
or is
San
that
Diego
okay?
County, North County,
Yeah,
San Diego.
yeah. So, like, how's the culture over there?
In terms of what?
Like the economy, the energy. Like, does it feel like things are going? We're gonna have a great 2025 from a kind of like a feeling intuitive standpoint. You're a business guy. You're out there. You're making moves.
Yeah,
Or is it like just new apathetic, or like you think is there good energy? Because one of you's on the East Coast, one's on the West Coast. It's like, what's
I
the beat on the street?
I think that I just recently, I mean, I think that there's a big feeling that a dark cloud has been lifted uh, since the election results came out, if I'm being frank. And the California is a really weird state because it seems like there's a vocal minority that pushes, certain agendas and things like that, that when you talk to, and maybe it's just I could just be insulated with the people who I'm around, and specifically where I live in, I'm not ashamed to say it, I live in a pretty affluent area. But the most people that you talk about are pretty, like-minded in terms of the values, and very pro-business, pro-military. We like our rights. We respect law enforcement. We're not okay with people entering illegally and things like that. And so, right, and this happens, or had been happening on a you know several times a week, where there are legit boats pulling up to our beaches, like down there. I live about a block from the beach, and people jumping out and running into the neighborhood, and it's happened over and
Really?
over and over, and we would see it. Yeah. And you wouldn't,
Boats?
boats of illegal, aliens pulling up to the beach, ditching their boats and running through our neighborhood. And I have video on my phone.
Really?
Everyone. Yeah. Yes. You never see it on the news, but it is a reality here.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Wow.
there's a lot of people that are fed up, or were fed up, and said this
That
isn't.
seems a little scary though, in the
It's
sense of
very
like
scary.
if
It
they, yeah,
It's a
that's
real thing.
scary.
It's not, this isn't a situation where, if you're not here, and you wouldn't know about it, but it gets swept under the rug, and it happens, and I've seen it, I've witnessed it firsthand. I'll send it to you on my phone of,
Wow.
and it actually happening, like when kids are on the beach.
Oh my God.
So,
No,
and
your kids.
yeah, it's not a one-off
That's
situation.
scary.
It was happening over and over. And these guys jump out, they run up, there's like an SUV or a van waiting for them, and then they
What?
just and go. 100%. 100 million%. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's scary. The van thing, picking them up is scary because that makes you think like, could that be some kind of gang or something or some
Yes, it
kind of
absolutely
like,
is. It is. They pay. That's where people are making a lot of
and
money.
is that because the protection is down to such a degree as like a consequence of the political times we're in? Or is
So
that just, does that
I
always happen regardless of that? Or
so
like, is it just heightened like crazy?
it's Yeah, it had, within the past 4 years, like we had never seen it before. And the reason, and this is my
Oh,
theory, but the reason is because people, like, let's not vilify, and this is where I think it gets like the lines get blurred. People who are trying to enter the country illegally, let's assume that they're good people or whatever, right? So a good person, or they hear, when they're in their country, and it's not, here's the other thing too, it's not Mexico. They're from all over. They hear in their country,
mhm.
hey, we can get you into the US. It's no problem. When you get there, they have all of this stuff for you. So this is what they're being told by these people, these
And
profiteers.
maybe they're even being told like, people want you there. It's all good. Like it's cool.
Yeah, we don't know. So the people arranging this are making money hand over fist, and it turned into a huge business. So
Oh,
so
getting
it's
money from them to get them there, kind of like a
yeah,
broker.
yeah, that's
An effortless transaction.
correct.
I don't know
Yes,
if I don't know if I like the tie there. I
yes,
appreciate that. Uh,
uh-huh. Yes. And where I did hear that they're all pre-approved for home purchase the second they step foot. So that got thrown around. I don't know.
Oh, this
But
is
no, but
funny.
that's the whole, word on the street south of the border is, hey, come, we have
How often would you see? How many times a week would you say you saw that?
at least once a week, s-
Wow.
sometimes several times a week. And it's from, like, our coast is big. So imagine that we're seeing it in this neighborhood and a couple times, right? And it's all up and down the coast. And so it's scary. And what happens too is this is the craziest part. They leave the boats and then just nonchalantly, like the boats will somebody will come, the park police, or I don't know who it is, some government agency just comes, tows these boats out, and like nothing ever happened. And I'll send you. I have video. I'll text you the video. It'll blow you away.
Yeah, for sure.
Hold on, like holy crap. Yeah. So it's scary. But so anyway, so that has been happening, and if you want to get the pulse of people now, like, oh, this is great. Hopefully, this is going to stop happening. I'm pretty sure it's going to stop happening. So that's a positive. Gas prices are down. Gas prices in California are obscenely more expensive than everywhere. So that's a positive. There's so there's a lot of hope right now.
Ken, what about on your coast?
We're just trying not to get too caught up in the drones right now. I think the East Coast, the Jersey Shore, it's crazy how people are freaking out over these drones. And I haven't seen any of them, but like every time I go on Facebook, everybody I know has seen a drone. And I don't know if they see drones or they see something that they think is a drone. They want to be part of the drone, story. So I saw one too. And it was like, well, that was the moon.
Drone about what's the drone? I'm not tuned into this.
You don't
at
know
all.
nothing about the drones, huh?
Really?
No, I've been so busy.
Can you see this? I'm going to share this. I think this is the explanation for the drones. See that?
You guys are silly, man.
There are drone sightings all up and down the East Coast, all up and down in New Jersey over military installations. The conspiracy theorists.
You really haven't heard this, Jay?
No, I've been really busy doing, I'm not sure what, honestly.
Jay is not, he's culture. He's not pop culture. He's just culture.
Bro, it's all over the news. You can't turn, it's the big distraction.
No, all I've done is podcast and read and Peterson Academy.
Good for you. Honest to God.
No, I don't even know.
That's where you should be. You shouldn't be listening to all this noise.
They found OJ not guilty, right?
Who's that?
You hear that?
That's too funny. Yeah.
But no, I mean,
okay, so there's a lot of drones, but and what's the conspiracy? That's
that's the crazy part. Is the conspiracy is that nobody knows. You ask, okay, why are they there? And the government's like, well, we don't think they're a threat. We don't know why they're there, but we don't think they're a threat. Like
that makes it seem like it's them or something.
Who knows?
But how many are you talking about? I just want to be clear since you're my news right now.
I don't know. I mean, if according to social media, there's thousands and we're being invaded by aliens. That's really what it boils down to. Now, what the reality is, I have no idea.
There's illegal aliens on one coast and aliens on the other.
Right.
All I did was asking about the economy, how the energy. All of a sudden, there's a Will Smith movie
aliens
or something.
and advanced aliens, and they're going to meet in Iowa.
Yes. No, they're all. I think it's all a distraction from the Diddy list. Everybody at those Diddy parties, man.
Joe, have you ever been to one of those parties?
To a Diddy party?
Yeah.
That's a pregnant pause. That's called a pregnant pause.
Oh, because I have to put it into context. Because I actually have, but not what you've seen. I was at where was it? Not Mansion. When I was in South Beach, he had a party after. Was it the Super Bowl or something like that? But it was at a club. It wasn't like, but no, he was. Yeah, I was at one. It wasn't anything.
But see,
I think the stuff that they got in trouble for were like at his house was doing weird shit. I was at a party, a private party at a club.
Well, this is a good moment for me to share. So it's just from a cultural perspective. I have a theory, okay, or maybe more of a explanation, maybe a deduction of like part of Epstein's business model was to associate innocents with guilties.
Mm.
Because think about it. If I'm him, I want to be hit. I want to be hidden in plain sight. The more innocence I get at my island, every person lies. We did that one thing the first time we did the show. I went on your show where it was like different things, truth, lie, whatever. Remember
Right.
that game? Every human lies in varying degrees. It's part of our nature. It's survival. Blah blah blah. So like he can get these people in positions of power, arguably lying, whether it's self-deceit leading to deception, omission to commission, or it has a relationship with power, like authority, influence, responsibility. So like you mix innocence with guilties. What that does is those in position of innocent, they're guilty of
Guilt by
something.
association. Guilt by
Yeah, so
association.
like who's going to protect that person is somebody that like is in a position where like, all right, I'm not going to say anything or even bring it up because like then I'm guilty by association. So I think a lot of these types of people operate in that way where, it's like it's like a funnel. You went to the club, so you're at the top of the funnel. You bought $79 course. You didn't get to like, Xenu, which is like maybe the diddler and the lotion and all that at the whatever they were doing. So
That's
what
what's
I'm
that.
trying to say is like
I didn't have the right color wristband,
I,
man. What can I say?
I've been studying this Epstein culture, fascinated by, think about that. It's a psychological and
No, I
a and
think
a
that you're. I think,
It's
phenomenon.
power.
I think you're going down the. I think you're going on a fool's errand, looking at it that way. And I'm going to tell you my
Okay,
theory.
go. Yeah, let's go.
Not
This is
just my
good.
theory. This is things that I've heard that start to make a whole lot of sense. And I believe that he was working for a foreign government, and he put himself in situations to basically get these powerful rich people in precarious positions, film them, and then use them as leverage and blackmail to do their bidding. And then this was the MO of like all of these people. And if you think about everyone who's interrelated, and like within that subsection, Hollywood and these, like there's are definitely some sickos that are like really into it. So like so that culture does exist, but that for the purposes of basically blackmail, that's where that was the genesis of it. And that's how I believe he was able to infiltrate originally the guy who owns what's a Wexler, the dude, the Victoria's Secret guy that owns like all of those. That was his first mark. And with that
Wow.
access, that money, then he was able to do it. And then I don't believe he acted alone either. I think that it's a whole, you know.
Well, what you're
But,
saying though, I would say doesn't. I don't think we're disagreeing at all. But
yeah. So
you're
now
going deeper, like in another theory of
yeah,
yeah.
well now you see things with like Diddy or whoever, right? Like I believe that there is dirt on everybody that makes, has a certain number of zeros after their name, and then these are just sacrificial lambs to like, okay, well, if you don't do things this way or this way, then you're next. Or if we need a distraction from something else, then we're going to throw this person under the bus and feed them to the lions, and
Well,
everybody's
think about what money and power does. I mean, it can put someone, any of us, in a position where we may not have to suffer the consequence of our action.
And
And
if
every
you
time we do, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, if you're in a position where the options are suffer the consequences of your actions, which could be catastrophic to you or to the person, then the alternative is to sacrifice someone else, and there's all but nothing they will do to protect themselves and the people that are in power. They position themselves purposefully with, like Joe said, strategic sacrifices that they have lined up if necessary to protect what they
Well,
have
and
in
I
the
would think
field.
that would be a natural consequence of selfishness taken to its final cause in the sense that, right, like at the root of selfishness is the absence of a degree of reciprocity of reciprocity. Like if the relationships aren't reciprocal, they're
Right.
transactional. It's like I
Correct.
win, you lose. In a relationship, it's all right, I might win, but like let's play again and like maybe you'll win. And I'm not cheating, so even if I'm in the 99th percentile, I'm still gonna lose like
This is where
1% of the time. There's relationship.
this
Oh,
is where
the hat's backwards. We're in now.
oh it's no, this has been so, but this is where people can't comprehend it. And I've began to maybe start to get this concept, but the average person thinks about like motivation of people in terms of money, like, oh, he did it for the money or whatever. When you have so much money, when you're past the point of like where money is irrelevant, money no longer
Mhm.
is a factor. It's a tipping point. And I happen, like I'm familiar friends with and know guys that have lots. And the one conversation I had one time, it's like, well, what is it like that this month? They're like, how much do you think that house is over there? And like to me, I'm like, that's like a $30 million house. I'm like, I don't know, 25, 30 million. And he's like, nope. He's like, that house is exactly 45 days. That's what that house costs. I was like, what do you mean 45 days? He's
Wow.
like, 45 days, the assets that we have, if having nothing done with those assets, the interest off of those assets would cover that house, and then we acquire that house, and then that house is an asset. So the average person is like, oh, let me find, like, these guys have so much money that money's not the currency anymore in these strategies, right? So if you think about when you have a lot of something, it becomes devalued, and your brain naturally, because you're the type of person that got to that in the first place, needs other ways to challenge themselves and not be bored. So this is where you have billionaires that are making rocket ships and doing all this stuff. So on the one hand, you have guys like the Elon Musks, and they're inventing things, they're coming up with cool stuff for the good. But like, you have to believe that there are at least 1% that are psychopaths and doing stuff for evil with equal amount of money and access. And
Scary.
that's
That's really
where this
scary thought.
all trickles down. But it's true. Even if you just look at it from like a
Well, I
statistical
thought it
standpoint,
was at 4% of the population that is psychopathic or close to that. So what's 4%? What's the population of the world right now?
I don't
Eight
know.
billion? Is it 8
Something,
billion?
yeah.
7 billion?
I mean,
Pushing
But one
four.
percent would that would
but
be
the
280
point the
million
point being made,
psychopaths.
if there's one billionaire psychopath, and billionaire with a B, and people don't realize how much money you actually have to be a billionaire. It's
It's
a lot.
crazy. A real one too,
But
because there's a lot of
yeah, it's
fake
a real
ones.
one, not like but a billionaire psychopath can do irreparable damages, and like beyond any.
Comprehension.
Yeah, because of like just like, well, think about what's his name, the drug guy down in Mexico, or
Oh, like Pablo Escobar or something, or
Pablo
like one.
Escobar. Pablo
Yeah,
Escobar, they could do anything because they would get pulled over. The cops say, said, I'm gonna either pay you money or I'm gonna kill you. What's it gonna be? And then
that's scary.
so like, that's on a small scale. He wasn't like a billionaire, but think about billionaire with the access of everything. And there are names that you can look up that have that kind of money and have that kind of access, that that almost don't even hide some of the bad
You
stuff
know,
that.
it's an interesting thought you just brought up though, is like we think of Pablo, right? But if you really think of the grand scheme, he didn't have any power in comparison to the like let's say that okay, this is where you're going. It's like you go into the corporate tower and you have just like whoever that shadowy figure is that everybody thinks is they're the guy. They're good. Like they're good. But they're not. They're good
No.
enough to not like or I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
But
think about this. This is scarier. What about the guy that actually owns 20 of those ivory towers with a bunch of guys in there that are ambitious and just trying to do it? And this one guy that owns all those towers is a bad guy. And he's not because like any other reason that he's bored of making money and he wants to do shit as like some kind of sick
Like
experiment.
Grand Theft Auto.
I'm
Like
not
I
familiar.
wouldn't play Grand
Yeah.
Theft
Oh
Auto.
yeah,
I would
right, right,
just,
right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
like that's his Grand Theft Auto game.
Yeah. Like it's that's what I think the evil is at
And
play.
if
And
I'm
it's
that guy, I probably don't believe in God or a God because like
no,
why would I? Why would I want to believe that like somebody or something is bigger than me because and it's gonna spank my ass if I'm like doing
but
weird
we're
shit, right?
talking, see, you're trying to humanize that person with you. We're talking about a sociopath that has this power. So the
Oh yeah,
sociopath,
that's a good point.
imagine, right. So like that's like, why would Jeffrey Dahmer want to eat
They
anyone?
never even
Like,
thought, they
yeah,
never even
like
had the thought.
no, they
The
can't even
lion doesn't
process
think
it.
the lion doesn't even think the thought.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
Ooh, that's deep.
there
Good.
has to be, there can't be every billionaire with that amount of power. There has to be one that's a
Or
sociopath
more.
or more, right?
Man, there only needs to be one.
That's
You know,
all.
there's an old Jewish tale, or it's something, some kind of thought about at any given time, there's at least 30, there's 36 righteous people in the world, and that don't know they are that, uh, or something to that effect. And that keeps the sinews of the world together. I'm curious if you guys ever heard that or what your
No,
thoughts are.
Where do you think you fall?
I think I'm a sick fuck.
depends on the day.
Yeah, like
No,
I don't yeah I'm scared of afraid you know afraid cowardly uh you know I haven't had really any serious opportunity to do bad things. It's not like anyone's like you know when you're getting approached on a regular basis to sin. I think you know that you know ask me that in 10 years when somebody gives a shit about the show or what I'm doing.
no, you would know. You would know. You have tendencies. So it's not like you're not in the World Series of killing
You
people
know, one thing
tomorrow.
I know, but
You know, like
there's
yeah.
degrees
So,
of sin, right? Like there's thoughts,
yeah.
and then there's like
Relativism.
there's like we like uh uh there's certain environments it'd be good to not put myself like myself in. Why create the like I don't want to think that I definitely don't want to think that I'm something or someone that's beyond anything that's really, really bad. Or yeah, that's like so when you ask me that question, like uh that makes me very uncomfortable to even think about the answer.
You like to think you aren't that kind
But
of guy.
it,
And
no, I'm saying
so do I.
I don't want to think that I'd be the righteous person or you know a righteous person. You know, like I want to think like you know would I have been an Auschwitz guard because I was afraid? Like, would I have been an Auschwitz guard because I'm afraid? Would I have been courageous enough to like say to, you know, the Nazis, hey, screw you? You know, would
You
I have
wear a
been
mask.
Bonhoeffer?
Wait, did you wear a mask during COVID? Did you get vaccinated?
You
Ooh.
know, Joe,
Listen,
you
I
know,
don't know
you're
if that's the same thing,
It
dude.
is. Well, hold on. It's not obviously not on the same level, but that's a good litmus test for people.
Joe, even the question you asked really challenges me to look at myself, right, and who I really am, because I just got a very deep discomfort of like, do I even want to answer the question? So that makes me feel like I'm a coward, that I don't
Sure.
have
You don't
courage.
have to answer I was asking hypothetically
No,
anyway.
but I'm just want to at least be honest. Is like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
man, I don't even know. Like, you know, I'm still finding my voice in the world.
Yeah.
You know, so I like that you asked the question because it's
Yeah.
real, and
Because
that's my real emotion. My real response at the moment is like, man, I don't even feel confident, courage, honest, or I don't know, like strong enough to answer an honest question. And I'd
I
like
think
to
that's a leap. I just it's a leap. I get what you're saying, like litmus test. But
Not a
you
leap.
know,
Not at
I
all.
think that if you persecuted someone for their belief around that topic, maybe, but
That's the
just
thing. If we're playing the analogy game, then that's like, yeah, I think if you actually push somebody in the oven, then yeah, you're a piece of shit. But if you just walked by and you knew what was going on and you didn't participate, you're not as bad.
that's
Think that you're a
deep,
piece
deep.
of shit if you had anything to do with it and you didn't speak up. So, and like obviously how I'm talking, my stance on the situation and how I was through the whole thing. Ken will tell you, but it's, it comes full circle now, and I'm like, fuck that. I don't forget. Like, dude, it didn't feel right to me in the beginning. It never felt right through it. And I was the positive that came out of it. It changed me fundamentally because I looked around and I said, how in the world? And you may disagree with me or not with the whole thing. I'm just saying,
Sure, sure.
personally, I was 100% against it from the very, very beginning. And because I was so much against it and I looked around at other people, whether I was right or they were right, I was like, how can everyone just go along with this? I don't get it. I don't understand. This doesn't make sense to me. And why is everybody okay with this? And I wasn't okay. And I made
fear,
everyone know.
trust in authority, fear, and self-preservation had nothing, had a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
Well,
and some people genuinely too also really believe in that uh you know that like they're excited about that type of the idea of that type of medical intervention. I've watched some podcasts and read some books on people like that. And that's like here's somebody that I like to follow that he kind of fits in these different like he doesn't really fit too much in a box, you know what? You ever heard of Scott Galloway? I think you would like him. Uh, but he's like, yeah, I really would love your analysis of him. Actually, he's not just a podcast NYU professor, but he had a background in business and consulting and marketing and like really high level marketing and real like very odd, like authentic, vulnerable in his pod. That's what attracted me to him. I like his books and like he's like, I love it. I love, give me one every three. And he's like so into it. And I don't know, just um, some people genuinely really believe in that. Like that's their fix.
what are we talking about still?
The
Vaccines?
vaccine.
Yeah, like
Okay.
those types of medical interventions, like they really believe in, or like almost like it's the exact inverse of, like would I don't know comfortable I am about having things in my body. Yeah, how much of that is like nature, nurture? Some
So
people are
beyond
like the opposite. They're like really into it. I don't know.
so beyond whether like let's put the efficacy argument of the vaccine itself aside. Okay. So if it works
Yeah,
or
I'm not going to
right?
efficacy.
So
I'm not
so
going there.
so
I don't mean
simply
that.
put, the amount of just suppression of any kind of
Oh, that's what you're talking about.
superior
Yeah.
concept that, hey, maybe this isn't right. And that just like there were so many things that went along with no one, there was no alternative. And beyond that, when we get back to the analogy, the Auschwitz analogy, is you were you were forced, people were being forced into something, put something in their body. That should never happen. You should never be forced to put something in your body. You're like, well, what about abortion? Like, that's not being forced to be put in your body. That's called rape, and that's not okay. And I think we all agree that rape's not okay, right? So that those are the difference in these arguments that people are making that were so like contradictory and so hypocritical that the getting back to again, like, how would you, in a situation where you truly feel that people are doing not the right thing, then like how are you going to react? Are you going to go along with it and say nothing, or are you going to say something? So, like, using that as an example, like personally, I thought that I was on the one side of it, so I spoke up. I did not speak up, but I think a lot of people felt one way or the other and just went along with it. So
Mm.
Well, wait,
that's the
when you say you
scariest part.
spoke up, you express your opinions to me, you express your opinions to the people that were around you, but in what way did you publicly speak up and protest against what you felt was wrong?
Well, small things. So when I went into a store and they told me to put a mask on, I told them where they could go. I didn't get vaccinated against every like the crazy number of people who were, and neither did any of my kids when we were threatened by the schools and all of these things. Like, no, we're absolutely not. We're not doing that. It's not right. So forth. So those are two main things. There's a bunch of there was a bunch of groups and movements set up out here, like Let Them Breathe and things like that, which made kids, let kids go to school without wearing a mask all day and things like this. The kids were being forced to wear masks all day long. And
Mm.
we know that it's not good for them, right? But all the schools, and California, I'm sure is a much different experience than maybe you guys had in Pennsylvania or wherever. But like out here, it was totalitarian and incredibly disruptive for kids and business. They wouldn't let, businesses were being shut down. Neighbors were calling, telling on their neighbors. They shut down the parks. They filled up skate parks with sand so the kids couldn't skate in the skate parks. They wouldn't allow people on the beaches. So it's not, it's really scary when you think about and you look around and everybody was, I wouldn't say everybody, but the majority of people are just like, okay, well, this is what we got to do. This is what they said. And it's frightening. It really is frightening. And it's consequently, it's also like when I changed my life as a result of it, because I was like, I don't want to be
Mm.
without 100% of my cognition. And then if any situation goes off, and at the same exact time, I quit drinking, I started working out more. I did a whole bunch of other things, to tighten up, because it's a real deal. And when society decides that they're going to do nothing together, it's scary. So
Mm.
that's
That's scary. Well, let's look at the way China operates with its millions of cameras and the social credit system and all these things. And maybe uh maybe we would all get used to it. But it's like how scary, right, is the idea of like going to prison. Maybe after 2 or 3 years, you're in there and you make some friends and you start eating, you get used to the bread and you're doing push-ups every day and you have like a job in the kitchen or something, and you're reading some reasonable literature if that's available. It becomes, pretty easy or enjoyable. Um,
I don't I think that the individual liberty argument is a valid one. To your
and
point, Jay,
I
with the
get
cameras and
yeah.
intrusiveness of the government, to your point, Joe, and your right to choose. I'm still not there on the correlation or the connection between the those that got the vaccine are akin to those who silently sat and during the Holocaust. Like they're just not the same. I'm sorry. Just not the same.
and you are
This is an awesome
you are the
podcast.
problem, sir.
Just not.
This
Just
is
not.
called, we're going to call this podcast mansplaining.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
This one's
it's a
good. I don't
funny,
know if this
yeah,
one's ever going to air,
yeah,
Jay.
yeah.
hold on, I want to put it. Hold on. Well, as we're on that, I'll put a
Is that like a
disclaimer
PC
out
thing?
here.
I mean, the culture, this is culture. This is like,
I
It's
it's
true.
an effortless conversation. Right?
I'm making no assertions of what I'm saying is right either. I never do. I don't know if what I'm saying is correct,
it's your
but
truth.
it's what I believe. Yeah, it's what I believe from my experience, and it's what I
Yeah.
believe.
You,
So I
yeah.
may be wrong. I'm open-minded enough to be convinced otherwise. I just
No,
haven't.
you just identify as being right. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And no
So,
one's
so
saying you're wrong about your beliefs. I'm just saying your connection was a little loose for a minute.
I
I'm
think
just
it's a beautiful demonstration that we can be friends, deep friends, and not agree to agree, or
yeah.
like you're effortlessly disagreeing. Like that's something we don't see at dinners. And I mean, maybe do we see
Oh.
it more now? I mean, we didn't definitely in the pandemic time, but like,
Well, I think he's
why
just
can't we
placating
disagree
me so he
anymore?
can snitch on me later. I think he's gonna call the hotline. I'm gonna have a bunch of dudes in chem suits in my front
Yeah,
door.
I got it. No, it's recorded. No, it's recorded. We got him. We got him.
Guys.
No,
So I guess,
to your
yeah.
Jay, disagreeing is a lost art. It's unfortunate, and it's still going on right now. The ability to just say, I mean, for you to let go, like the ego, let go of like this is absolute truth. I don't have absolute truth in anything, and I let go of that a long time ago. And the more you learn, like to bring us back to the very beginning of this conversation, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know, and the willingness to just say, "Hey, I never thought of it that way," is it. Far too few people are willing to say that. And if more people were willing to say, "Hey, I never thought of it that way," you know, probably a lot less conflict. And but you know what? Conflict's important too. Like I want to know when I'm wrong, and sometimes it takes someone, whether regardless of the argument, not this one particular. Sometimes it takes a passionate opposition for me to realize that I'm wrong.
But the problem these days is confirmation bias. There's never been so much readily available information that can prove what you're thinking, even as outlandish as it could be. If you Google something a certain way, it is going to present you with some sort of article or something that validates what you're saying, like the earth is flat, right? Or like something,
Are you saying because
Whoa,
how the
whoa, whoa! You
algorithms
don't
work?
think the Earth's flat? You're a round
I,
Earth guy?
I knew you'd catch the bait there. So I've explained it this way, right? Like, let's say that person A believes that milk is poison, and person B believes that milk is like the greatest liquid that your body can have. So person A, when they go online, all they see are articles and doctors and everyone saying how milk is poison. And they turn on the TV and the news talks about poison milk and don't drink milk and whatever. And then person A sees the same thing, but the opposite of how it's so great, it's a miracle, whatever. Then put these two people in a room and like have them have common ground. It's impossible. And that's what we have. It's the divide and
Maybe this is why
conquer.
we need the other person. There's person A that thinks milk is poison. Person B, like you said, thinks that milk is great, but there's person C that thinks that poison is milk.
Yeah.
And then they die, and then we all get some feedback. Like at
But
some
Joe,
point, our
The whole
extreme views at some point will smack us in the face.
but that's
And
the
then
biggest thing.
right? War. That's war's,
But that's because of that's
purpose.
by design. And getting back to the sick billionaire, it's the analogy of like the red ants will always fight the black ants. But if you put them in a jar, they'll live peacefully until you shake the jar and then they'll kill each other. So the black ants and the red ants, they don't consider who shook the jar. They just try to kill each other. So that's the whole key. Like these people that have these like spirited just like debates, like whether you're Republican or Democrat or conservative, whatever, like everyone gets so wound up on their view and they're not taking a step back and saying like, why are we only being fed two main narratives on every single situation
But
out
this
there?
brings us back to the 36 righteous people, because it's the righteous people. What if the righteous people's purpose was to remind the ants that someone shook the jar?
That's deep.
that's good stuff right there.
Yeah. Then there's the righteous brothers that have the unchained melody.
So, guys, if you have one word to summarize this conversation tonight, what would it be? And don't say effortless.
we keep saying effortless, is it going to get picked up in like Google searches?
You got to trademark that, homie.
Princeton already did.
Oh.
Unexpected. How's that? There's my word.
I guess it's my word, huh? One word for tonight's conversation.
Typical.
No, it's not that. One word. A lot. Just say a lot. There's a lot, dude. I think that we touched the surface on we covered a lot of things. I think we dug a 1,000-mile wide 1-inch hole instead of a 1-inch 1,000-mile deep hole. But
fun's my word. Fun's my word.
It's always fun. Joe, I will say this though, Jay, you brought it up many times before, and Joe, your conversation about confirmation bias, listen to your haters, seek out the people that don't agree with you, embrace the thought that someone has a different thought than you do, and find them and talk to them, and love your enemies. I mean, I think that was in Culture Matters, if I'm not mistaken. That was in 30 Days of Thought. That was one of the chapters in 30 Days of Thought. So if there was a theme that we rap with, and I'm not saying we got to rap, but it's definitely seek out the alternative points of view, and listen to the people that disagree.
If you're listening to this episode of the Culture Matters podcast, please go back and listen through our past episodes. Give us the benefit of the doubt that they're all not like this. And please subscribe to Selling the Dream, one of the more professional, higher order interview format, conversationalist, future Rogan experience-esque shows there is, by our guest today, Joseph Iredell and Ken Jordan. And watch out for some evil billionaires. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks, guys.
Woo.